It's closer than you think, so don't blink. The specter waits for souls lost from their homes. The legends roam the mother streets, searching for...
Hello, I'm K. Patrick Glover. Welcome to a special edition of Potluck. Once again, we're going to be talking about the film Butterfly Kisses. If you haven't seen it, it is available to stream free on Amazon Prime. Here's the trailer.
Behind me stands Ilchester Tunnel, a throughway for the B&O Railroad for over a century. But for the past 80 years, it has become something far more sinister.
And the very first one that I pick up says, final solution.
A young lady identifies herself as Sophia Crane.
And then it got a little upsetting after that. Got a little bit weird. There's no cuts. There's no retakes. There's no calling for action. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest that somebody is directing them.
We have the possibility that this whole thing is real. And we have the possibility this whole thing is a largely plausible hoax.
If you're working with all these elements, you can, journalistically speaking, you can construct your own story out of whatever footage you choose to put in there.
I do not believe that this video is authentic.
I think there's some acting involved, there's some effects involved. And I think that it's kind of disturbing that he feels that the only way to market this footage is to pretend it's real.
This has been done 1,000 times before, and we think it's a scam. I'm not the only one, it's everyone.
We're gonna take this footage to every professional in town that we can find. Ghost hunters, mythbusters. We're going to go to the radio stations. We're going to the TV stations. We're going to show the footage, and we're gonna saturate the market with this information. Then we're gonna prove to the world that Peeping Tom exists. The camera doesn't lie.
With me today, director of the film, Erik Kristopher Myers, Bart Hunkeler, and his wife, Eve Hunkeler, the in-laws of Gavin York. Bart, let me start with you. Who actually found the tapes in the basement?
I did find the tapes in the basement. I went down, new home, trying to just check out the heating system, and I actually ended up kicking what felt like something underneath the stand for the heating unit in the basement, and then I pulled out what appeared to be a box that said "Do not watch" on them. When I opened it up, there were tapes, many different tapes.
How long had you been in the house? It was a new house at the time, right?
New for us.
New for you.
Yeah.
How long had you been in the house when you found them?
What would you say?
Oh, less than a year.
Yeah.
So it had been a while. And Gavin had been over the house frequently, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So
He helped us move in.
theoretically, Gavin could have put those tapes there and you would not have known.
Well, judging by the amount of dust that was and debris that was on top of the box, my impression would be that they'd been there for quite a while.
Okay. He showed you the footage on those tapes?
Yes.
Yeah.
When? How long a time passed between the time you turned that footage over to Gavin and the time he showed it to you?
Gosh. We looked at them. I remember calling Amelia when we saw them because we couldn't look at them ourselves. We're not that technically good at that kind of thing. We don't have the machinery at home. And we told her about them. She came over in a couple days. She grabbed them. And she said something like that he wouldn't be able to use them because of the type of tapes they were or something like that. It's not what they use nowadays.
Right.
Something like that.
They weren't, I guess they were from a decade or more prior.
The type of tape that was used.
Right.
But she gave them, she said maybe Gavin would enjoy watching them and they'll just take a peek at them and see what they are. And I guess it was like maybe a week or two. They came over to the house for dinner and we saw some of it. We didn't see all of it, but she just showed some of it to us.
Okay, so it was a week or two between the time Gavin had the tapes and the time they got back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Erik, how common are those type of tapes anymore?
First, I just want to go on the record as saying that I was, look, I didn't roll my eyes when you were talking.
I'm sorry.
I was advised that I come back and
Right, and we appreciate you returning.
I'm just saying that I'm here. I'm not going to answer any questions I'm not comfortable with. So I just want that known, up front.
Okay. About the tapes.
The tapes, those are mini DV tapes, and they were sort of what people used in the early aughts.
Okay. If somebody handed you a box of mini DV tapes, would you have a way of playing them?
You would need either a deck that was specific to tapes of that sort, or you would need a camcorder that you could then plug in and run either through your television or through your computer.
Would you have that sort of equipment laying around?
I have camcorders, yes.
Okay. Is it reasonable that Gavin, as a wedding filmmaker, would have that sort of equipment laying around?
I would assume that because he was about my age, he probably had cameras of that era. I did, and it is shown in the film, I did find one day that we were in his home and we were filming, I was just, looking through some of his old cameras, and I found that he not only had mini DV cameras, but he also had a Panasonic DVX 100, which was sort of the top of the line in 2004, and also is shown throughout the found footage as being the camera that Feldman used. And then when we came to the Ilchester Tunnel, as you see at the end of the documentary, when he texted me and said, bring the film crew, he was there at the end of the trestle, and he had his tripod and he had that camera set up and was recording. But I guess he was trying to recreate, what Feldman.
We talked a little bit last time, you got upset, but that ending that you're talking about, or not ending, but that sequence that you're talking about in the film is not the same sequence that is in the work print cut. Why is there a different sequence there?
I don't know what you're referring to, so no comment.
Who is Seth Kallick? Do I have the name correct?
Seth Kallick is a friend of mine that I've known since 1996. He's a musician. He lives in Baltimore, and we've been friends for a long time. He's one of my best friends.
Does Seth appear anywhere in Butterfly Kisses?
Seth does not appear in Butterfly Kisses.
So that's not him standing on the trestle in that last shot? The one where we never see Gavin's face?
Just say it.
All I can say is that the scene that you're talking about is, that scene shows Gavin York at the end of the tunnel, shooting with the camera.
The discrepancies between the work print cut of the film and the final cut of the film. Let's talk about the sequence where, in the original tapes, Feldman is laying on the couch, napping. And in the film, as it's presented in black and white, we see the image of Peeping Tom in the mirror above him. In the work print footage, which is in color, that mirror is completely empty. There is no image in that mirror. That would be a special effect put in after the fact.
I didn't film that.
No, but your work print cut has the footage without that image in the mirror.
Everything that you see in the work print that is the supposed found footage was given to me by Gavin York.
Okay. But was it doctored between those two periods?
I didn't doctor anything.
Wait a minute, I'm not understanding something. You're saying that what he's been given as your, and I'm sorry, work print?
It's a work print.
So that's all of the film that was filmed and then edited down, correct?
It's 3 hours of footage, yes.
So you're saying some of that you're claiming that our son-in-law filmed and or manipulated and ended up in your movie?
Somebody manipulated footage at some point. There are discrepancies in several sequences where we're seeing two clearly different scenes. Something was changed.
I agreed to be here, and I'm here. But I really think if you're demanding honesty from me, which I will agree to be as honest as I am legally able, I think the right thing to do first would be to tell me where you obtained the work print.
Why don't you be morally honest with what's going on with the film?
You recognize that name?
No.
We've met him.
No.
We've seen the film since then.
I just talked to that person last night.
That person doesn't believe you were being fair to Gavin during the production of that film.
Okay.
Let's talk about the manipulation of that sequence we were just talking about in that mirror. Theoretically, would you have the expertise to do
No,
that?
I don't do special effects.
Right. Let's talk about the Loch Ness Monster. It's one of your areas of interest, correct?
Yes.
Right. Wasn't there a photograph recently published?
No comment. No comment. I don't want to talk about this. Can we go back to the? Can we go talk about this? So,
Erik, you mentioned that Seth is your friend, but we met him. We talked to him. He didn't want to get embroiled in some kind of a legal thing, so he talked to us. Does that in any way change any of your answers right now?
Seth talked to you.
Yes.
Then Seth is a liar. All right, that guy.
Let's talk about the conclusion of the film. The sequence at the hotel.
Why is Seth not here right now? Why am I the one in the hot seat being asked all these questions?
Because your name is on the film.
But you're saying that Seth and this piece of go on, just go ahead.
Let's talk about that final sequence. Those were not police officers in that shot. Were they?
There were two men in uniform outside of the motel room.
Were they actors?
They were two men in uniform outside of the motel room.
You state it is stated on screen in the film that the autopsy report showed Seth had died of that Gavin had died of heart failure.
Why don't you ask them how Gavin died? Did Gavin die of a heart failure?
That's what the coroner reported, yes.
Okay, so...
How did you see the autopsy report?
I was told that is what was on the autopsy report, so if you study the title card as closely as you claim to have studied everything else, it says that the coroner report states that, didn't say I sat up and had a cup of tea and ate a Twinkie and read the...
I'm asking because coroner reports generally are not public information. How did you get a copy of the coroner's report?
I'm a filmmaker. I called the right people and I asked the right questions.
Did you see the toxicology report?
No, I did not. What does that? I never said anything about that in the film.
It puts some doubt on the cause of death. Yes, Gavin died of heart failure. It may have been slightly induced.
Okay, not my problem.
Did you film in that room at the time you said you filmed in that room?
I filmed in that room in July of 2015.
The day that Gavin's body was found?
I don't remember the day that Gavin's body was. I don't know the date off the top of my head.
Okay. But you found the body, according to the film.
His body was in the motel room the end of July of 2015, and I went to the motel room where his body was found, and we filmed, and the men in uniform were there, and we talked outside.
Kevin, will you please just let this man know, like you tried to let him know the last time, that you did get a PI involved in this. It was important for us to know exactly what we were dealing with.
I've had a whole team of investigators on this. I'm writing a book. I'm not doing it lightly. I've dug into every single piece of background on this case.
So just understand, it's not just talking to Seth. It's not just talking to whoever we gave permission to talk to in regards to the autopsy report and the toxicology report. He's got people that have investigated this. And there is a lot that does not make sense. And there's a lot that points right to you. Just fess up, help us out with this.
Okay, I did not kill Gavin York.
Do you feel at all responsible for his death?
No, I do not. Gavin York made his own decisions, and I was there to document what happened to him exactly the way that he wanted me to. He wanted my crew to follow him and to show what happened, and that's exactly what I did. And so the fact is that he was a troubled and disturbed man in a failed marriage with aspirations he was never going to be able to achieve. A child that.
So unfair
hey, listen,
to say about
let
him.
me finish.
Careful what you say here.
Look at, before he met you, yes, like a lot of people, a lot of young couples that are trying to find the right path, to find the right passion, to find the right job that will make them happy. But after these tapes, I truly, both of us truly believe that there was some manipulation going on that pulled him into another path. Why wouldn't a young kid who went to film school get excited about these tapes that he found? Of course. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he try to find someone he trusted that was excited along with him? And you were. You were excited. He came back to us and told us how excited you were to help him out.
No.
Oh,
maybe
no.
he perceived it as being help. I was making a film about him. That was my project. What happened with his project was, that's him. I was making a film about him. And yeah, I was very excited about that.
But
film.
where, at what point did these two films separate?
There was always a clear delineation. Lady, you go to McDonald's and you eat there three times a day, you're going to get fat.
Not lady. It's
okay,
Eve.
Eve. If you go to McDonald's 3 times a day and you eat, you're going to get fat. So he came to me and wanted me to tell his story. That's not my fault that he got dead.
You said on the program last week that Gavin clearly was an unstable individual.
Yes.
Okay.
You've watched the movie, right?
Yes, I've seen the movie several times.
Clearly, and so
Right.
it's pretty obvious. I mean, look,
You
when they
are,
go to
you
see
are
the
aware
Ghost
that a
Hunters-
contract signed by somebody who is mentally unstable is not legally valid.
Well, it wasn't my responsibility to go and have him do an entire psychological workup. All right, there is the scene where he is presenting the footage to Inspired Ghost Tracking the Ghost Hunters, and One of the paranormal investigators asks what kind of medication he's on, because he was the one up there in front of those people making himself look like a crazy person. That wasn't me.
Wasn't there some guidance from you?
Nope.
That you would have any
Nope.
responsibility for?
Nope.
None at all.
Nope. My guidance was to my crew. My guidance.
Clearly,
Even your
clearly
crew was
felt
second guessing some of the stuff you were doing.
that you needed to do something to help.
and you put
Gavin.
that in the film. I watched that. When you've got your own people really second guessing what you were doing.
Well, it's really hard to see a vision when it is a work in progress, which might have been part of the problem with Gavin York, in that he saw something that you and your daughter and everybody around him didn't support, didn't believe in, didn't take 5 seconds to try to look at and say, if he believes in this, if he thinks this is real and this is going to do something for his life, then I need to support that. Maybe that's what pushed him over the edge. And maybe my crew at the time didn't understand what my vision was. They're certainly happy with it now that it's been released and it's out there.
course
Maybe,
they
then
are.
maybe if you'd supported Gavin in the moment, he'd be sitting here talking to you about this. Maybe he's dead because you people didn't give him what he needed.
Maybe he's dead because of the path you led him down.
I didn't lead him down any path. I followed him with a camera.
No, you twisted.
Use your head. Use your head.
You twisted everything around.
No.
He had a vision. You twisted it and made it your vision.
There needed to still be a responsibility. He still had a wife. He still had a child. He couldn't just go off on this tangent. He had responsibilities that he had to do. He had
Someone
to deal
pulled
with.
him down that path. That was you.
You people are in denial. You are absolutely in denial. If you just need somebody that you can blame because you got a grandkid with no dad, and because your poor daughter is all sad and whatnot. She didn't care when he was there. I got plenty of footage of that. She couldn't give a damn about him or about her own child half the time because she was too busy trying to do her makeup so she'd look good when I did the interview spots with her.
Did Gavin have the expertise
It's true.
That's low.
to put special effects?
That was early in the process when you were doing those interviews with her. That was way before a lot of the obsessive.
She was
It was
married
all
to him.
different before
How
he-
long was she
before he
married to
changed.
him? How long was she married to him? You're trying to say that all of this behavior just popped up as soon as I came with a camera?
No. Gavin has always been passionate about it. Have we always agreed that the way he's handled it has been correct? No.
He let his family run out of money and not be able to support themselves and forced your daughter to come to you and beg for money. And in the meanwhile was stealing from his own child.
Tell me how much that you saw out of that film that you finally showed to us this week. We saw the whole version this week. I didn't see it last week when I was
bet
here,
you did.
but we saw
yeah,
it.
I just learned there are snakes in the grass, so yeah.
And I'll tell you, a lot of what my daughter was doing was supporting her husband at the time. But just like any good wife sees, is when she starts seeing her husband change and start doing irresponsible things, being pushed by someone else in his ear, which was you.
So remember that moment that's in the final cut of the film where I'm interviewing her and I ask about whether the money matches up from the work that he does and the business trips he does. And she doesn't answer the question. Do you remember in the work print that you have now seen, thanks to someone? So remember how originally that scene ended? With me asking that question, and you hear your grandchild Carter, and he's screaming and crying in the next room, and she kind of looks over in that direction and makes no move to do anything to check on her kid, and I ask, do you need to go see if your son is okay? If that is me being a bad influence because the camera was running, then perhaps the problem is really with your daughter and the man that she chose to marry, and that they were people who were fixated on
There were
themselves.
several points in your interviews where she tried to cut those interviews off and to walk away from the camera, and you insisted that she continue to answer a couple of more questions.
Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have
You were
no
pushing
idea.
her as much as you were pushing Gavin. Even in the interview you did with me, it was early on in the process, and I was getting a little upset about how things were changing.
Oh, do you remember the other footage that we shot after your interview where you and Gavin were in the kitchen and you were telling him that he needed to grow up and he needed to find real pursuits and all of that stuff?
I hate to interrupt here, guys, but that is all we have time for.
Oh, it's fine. We'll talk about this. Our lawyers will talk about this. So
Look for a book
conversation
coming
will
later
continue.
this year on the death of Gavin York and the truth behind the filming of Butterfly Kisses. You can track that at www.butterflykisses.net. This has been Potluck. I'm K. Patrick Glover.
Life used to be booming, life used to roar. Looking down an empty tunnel, I guess I miss it all. I thought I saw something there, but now nobody cares. I guess I'll sit and stare and hope the truth is somewhere. Death is closer than you think, so don't blink. A specter